Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. I'm the Last Wanderer, and today we have Snapshot 21w10a, which adds the first preview of Lush Caves, along with a couple other new cave features, some minor tweaks, and a couple new blocks. Currently, just like Dripstone Caves, the only way to generate a Lush Caves biome is to select either the single biome, caves, or floating island world type. Then scroll through the menu and find the Lush Caves biome. The most interesting of these world types probably has to be the floating islands one. When you open up this world, you'll generate in the middle of nowhere. To get to the Lush Caves features, you actually have to go down, because they'll only generate below Y level 64. But down there, you'll see a pretty amazing sight, with a lot of floating glowberry vines, and a lot of Lush Caves vegetation, as well as those water ponds that aren't leaking out due to the clay that surrounds them. Overall, this is very neat, but won't actually reflect the way the biome will generate in-game. The realistic generation of this biome is obviously in the single biome's world type. Now, while Lush Caves are a lot brighter than default caves or dripstone caves due to the presence of glowberries, which are a lot brighter and more plentiful than glow lichen, this biome can still be a little bit dark in places, so I'll be using night vision again. There is a lot going on with Lush Caves biomes, especially with all the vegetation. The floor section of the Lush Caves is split into two main parts, the mossy areas and the clay areas. In the mossy areas, you'll find things like moss blocks, grass, moss carpets, flowering azaleas, and azaleas. In the clay areas, you'll find clay, big drip leaves, small drip leaves, and some watery areas. Also, there's the ceiling, which also comprises of moss blocks, as well as glowberries and the occasional spore blossom. Additionally, you'll occasionally find hanging roots and rooted dirt, which comes from the new azalea trees that generate up above. Azalea trees are notable because they're the first type of tree to use two types of leaves, both azalea leaves and flowering azalea leaves. In terms of their generation, they generate sort of like an acacia tree, since they can branch off in a different direction. But unlike an acacia tree, they'll only ever have one branch, and that branch can go in a single direction much farther than an acacia tree's branch could ever. And unfortunately, azalea trees currently use oak logs, though that might change in the future, but we don't know at this point. One other interesting thing about azalea trees is that they don't seem finished, because as you can see, if I blow up these leaves here, I'll get some azalea, flowering azaleas, and regular azaleas back, but if I try to bone meal either of these, I won't get a new tree. Another unique part of azalea trees is that they'll generate with rooted dirt underneath of them, which can generate very far down. It can generate through other caves, through aquifers, through even more aquifers, and eventually end up in a cave below. Another interesting thing about azalea trees is that they will sometimes, though very rarely I might add, generate completely underground in a cave with no exposure to the surface above, making them the first tree that will do this. Also, azalea trees can generate partially submerged, just like this. And then there are azalea trees that generate almost completely submerged. Sometimes you'll also get a weird occurrence where an azalea tree's roots generates into an amethyst geode. Out of over 100 azalea trees that are found and traced down, every single one of them has intersected a cave and generated with hanging roots, which leads to my hypothesis on how they generate. First, a cave is selected where the hanging roots and rooted dirt is placed, then the game works its way up, which is why I think sometimes the rooted dirt will be interrupted by a cave, since this isn't a suitable place to put the azalea tree, and why the azalea tree almost always ends up at the surface. But in those rare exceptional cases, there are some times where there's a suitable place to put the azalea tree in the middle of a lush cave, or the azalea tree ends up being underwater. In case you're wondering how big these rooted dirt structures can get under an azalea tree, they can get this big. And this probably isn't even the biggest one. This is just the biggest one I found. So you can probably get many stacks of rooted dirt from just a single azalea tree. Back to the lush caves, let's look at some more weird generation. Lush caves can literally generate vegetation right next to lava, many of which is flammable, but it can also generate water sources literally diagonally from a lava source, which is pretty weird to say the least. One cool fact about the Lush Caves biome is that if the cave the Lush Cave is generating in makes contact with the surface, the features of the Lush Caves will still generate. So very seldomly you'll actually see one of these unique sites where you can find an exposed lush cave like this. The one part of lush caves I currently think is lacking are aquifers, because the only thing that generates down there currently is clay. Besides that, it's all just normal cave generation. Nothing special of lush caves. The lush caves biome does have some issues though. Since two caves can generate so close to each other, sometimes what will end up happening is when the water of one cave replaces its floor, it's also replacing the ceiling of another cave, giving you floating water, as you can see here. Lush caves biomes also cause some problems with abandoned mine shafts. The plants that generate can replace random wood planks in the structure, as well as the log support beams. Along with that, floating things can generate, like floating moss carpets, floating vines, floating grass, and more floating water and a floating drip leaf. And then there are also these weird floating glowberry vines, but those can also generate in other parts of lush caves as well. Here's a large group of these non-supported cave vines generating, and as you see, I can bone meal this one and it won't update the cave vine so it won't break. Another problem with the lush caves biome is that since the vegetation can generate right next to lava lakes, it can all go up in flames. So yeah, you can get cave fires now. And then there are some oddities, like these hanging roots, which are also hanging on hanging roots. Other than lush caves, there have been a couple other changes in the snapshot. For instance, there's been some changes with deepslate. The deepslate textures for regular deepslate and cobbled deepslate have once again been changed. There's also some new blocks, like the cracked deepslate tiles and the cracked deepslate bricks. Additionally, deepslate can now be placed like a log, where you can rotate it around the y-axis like this. So you can have parts that are facing up, parts that are facing to the north and south, and parts that are facing to the east and west. Additionally, there's also now an infested deepslate that generates under mountain biomes. As you can see, if I splash this silverfish with a poison potion, the others will pop out. And in case you're the one person wondering, no, cobbled deepslate slabs still do not have the proper sounds, unlike the other deepslate blocks. This snapshot also adds 3 more blocks as well. Deepslate emerald ore, deepslate copper ore, and deepslate coal ore. What's special about these blocks is that none of them will actually ever generate in the world, because none of these 3 ores actually generate deep enough for their deepslate version to generate instead. So, all 3 of these blocks are completely unobtainable in any normal survival world. All caves have also had another change where lava lakes will generate at the bottom of noise caves at Y level -56, so there'll be no more floating lava, and the entire bottom of the world is once again flooded with lava. Fossils have also received a change. Since coal ore cannot generate below Y level 0, the coal that would normally generate in a fossil that generates below Y0 is replaced now with diamond ore, as you'll see here in a second. Here is the completely uncovered fossil. As you can see, it contains a number of deep slate diamond ores, but some parts of the fossil were unfortunately replaced with just regular deep slate. Now, this isn't the best source of deep slate diamond ore in the world, but if you come across one of these fossils, you might want to consider excavating it because it does contain a couple of them, and because of the next change. And the final key feature change with this snapshot is with ore distribution. Once again, there haven't been too many changes, but there are some significant ones, like there's less iron now, and it generates lower down in the world. There's also more lapis and more emeralds, but those only generate in mountains. There's also less copper, gold, redstone, and diamonds. And diamonds now only generate in smaller blobs than before. Oh, and they reduced the amount of coal exposed to air. Here you can see the smaller clusters of diamond ore. Diamond ore will no longer generate to those 8 clumps that it used to. Instead, at most, it'll generate either to 4 or 3, unless you can get 2 different ore veins generating near each other. But for the most part, diamonds generate on average between 2 to 4 now. One last thing I forgot to mention is that once again, iron ore has been retextured, both its regular and deep slate variant. But that's all I've got for now. So thank you all so much for watching. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to leave them in the comments section below. And if you like this video, make sure to check out some of my other videos, including my past 2, which were both snapshot feature reviews, and my next one. So, once again, thank you all so much for watching, and goodbye. Real quick, here's a secret feature. The spyglass still has its 3D model when held, but it also now has a 2D inventory icon.